If you want to stay home, stay home. That's called freedom and democracy. What happened to that?
If they want to fly our flag upside down, they don't respect our country, I'll be the first to help them pack their bags and they can find a country that they want. But
most of these people, from when I chatted with them, voted PC in the 2018 election.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real abandonment of Doug Ford's base.
Contrast how Edmonton law enforcement acted at the protests at the Edmonton legislature with how the cops acted in Toronto. It was the third week of the Queen's Park protest. These are people, just average citizens coming out, in greater numbers I might add, that are just absolutely frustrated beyond belief in terms of having their civil liberties shut down. And more to the point, they want to go back to work, they want to go back to school. There were several more people at the Queen's Park protest than the Edmonton protest. And, you know, social distancing wasn't being maintained. But you know what? Contrary to popular belief, the Wuhan virus is not Ebola. And the people there were not 93-year-olds from long-term nursing homes with respiratory disease. What I'm getting at, folks, is that these are the primary targets statistically for this particular virus. So I would bet you a donut that nobody went home after this protest hacking and coughing and being infected. But the point is, kudos to law enforcement. They just let them have their 2.5 hours or so of venting, and then everybody went home, and there was nobody dragged off. There was nobody being written up with those $880 tickets. And if Mr. Producer has a clip ready, we'll play the evidence right now.
They're very easy to make. You take a little potato, you put a dick on it, and it becomes a dictator.
We need to come back and realize that we can't just sit in our homes. The sunlight kills this virus. There are cures for this virus. The vaccines are not the cure. We can't sit at home and wait for the vaccines.
Like, oh, come on. You couldn't figure out the flu vaccine for 30 years. Now you're going to figure this out in like 3 months? It's not going to happen.
You know how you open the province? Say open. You know how you open the city? Say open. Whoever feels safe to open, open. Whoever feels safe to go to the businesses, go to the businesses. If you want to stay home, stay home. That's called freedom and democracy. What happened to that?
And it's always going to be about who's got the loudest voice, who is going to have the most money, who's got the most to lose versus who's going to be the person who's not going to complain. And, this city is wide full of people that are saying, hey, we're okay opening to sell pizzas while the guy next door selling chicken wings is going to go broke. Who decides that?
That's what they did in Germany in 1963. This is East Germany. You don't work, you might work, you're essential, you're not essential. That happened a long time ago. And history repeats itself. If you don't understand what happened in the past, it will happen to you again, and it's happening now here in this country. Fascism is grabbing hold.
How are we ignorant? How are we not looking at the facts, asking the questions? Why is Rebel News not allowed to go interview the potato at his place? Like, how is that not allowed? We want to hear the real story.
Well, look at those yahoos out there not keeping the rank and file of the normal, how dare they drop the chain of command from the...
What did you make of that protest, Sheila, especially since the context of us going there was after the first protest, Doug Ford called these people a bunch of yahoos. After the second protest, and you saw some evidence, and I saw it at the Edmonton legislative protest as well, an upside-down Canadian flag. And incredibly, Doug Ford interpreted that to mean these people are anti-military. I can tell you by talking to them, nothing could be further from the truth, Sheila.
Yeah.
And then he said, and I think this is spectacular, this is right up there with Hillary Clinton's, basket of deplorables movement, although Hillary was going after her enemies, Doug Ford was going after his base. Then he said, if you want to leave this country, I'll personally help you pack your suitcases. And what do you make of that? First of all, to misinterpret the idea that an upside-down flag is universally recognized as a sign of distress, not anti-military, and then for him to say, if you're not on the same page as me, I'm going to help you get out of Ontario, get you out of Canada. That is spectacular. And like I said, Sheila, most of these people, from when I chatted with them, voted PC in the 2018 election.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real abandonment of Doug Ford's base.
Short and sweet before she froze up again. But what Sheila said, folks, it is an abandonment of Doug Ford's base. And I think, the Premier has to be very careful. And I say this too in the context that the day before this protest happened, this is protest number 3 down at Queen's Park, evidence emerged that Doug Ford had gone to his cottage on Easter Sunday. Now, why that's significant, folks, is that when we dial it back to early April, Doug Ford publicly besieged everyone. Do not go to your cottages for the Easter weekend. We know it's a family tradition with many of you, but now's not the time. Cottage country isn't ready. Do not go. This is about safety, and safety is predominant. And then it turns out, guess what? Doug Ford, like I said, on Easter Sunday, whipped up to his cottage. Now, the way they spun it is, it was only for a few hours and it was to check to see if there was any potential damage. Fine. But why didn't he say when he did his Easter rant that don't go to your cottage unless you have repairs to check on, repairs to make? He didn't say that. It was a blanket statement which he exempted himself from. It's just like Justin Trudeau breaking the law by crossing a border to go to his cottage. And then there's John Tory, the mayor of Toronto, who goes on Twitter and brags about how many tax-paying, law-abiding citizens get these $880 social distancing tickets from bylaw and law enforcement. And yet, 2.5 weeks ago, lo and behold, there's John Tory in front of a hospital posing with 10 healthcare workers. I mean, by my math, that's over $10,000 in fines right there. But suddenly, bylaw and law enforcement, and they were there, turn a blind eye. So I think people are really getting sick and tired of this whole idea of one law for me and one law for thee. They want to get back to work. And, a couple of the individuals at the protests made some very good points. What is this picking and choosing? If Walmart and Costco and the Liquor Control Board of Ontario and the beer store can have all their stores open and sell to the public, then why not Joe's Shoe Shop? If retailers practice the same social distancing etiquette, the plastic counter at checkout, the hand sanitizer when you walk in, the taped off spaces indicating 2 meters for a lineup, a restriction on the number of people in a store, then why can't the little guy open up his shop? And the not so little guys, Winners, the Bay, they're all closed down too. It makes no sense.